just wanted to say sorry for the not so good creepypasta drawings. I'm going to try to be a little slower, but they might take longer to get out. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you later. Bye. The only reason I'm going out of my way to tell any of you my story is because the Jane the Killer is starting to piss me off. My real name is Jane Arkansas, aka Jane the Killer, and this is how I met Jeff. The reason I look the way I do, and why I want to kill him. When I heard that a new family had moved across the street, I wasn't surprised. It was a nice neighborhood, and the house was relatively cheap considering where it was. I guess I was about 13, 14 when everything started to happen. I never really talked to Jeff when he moved in. To be frank, I never talked to him until that night. But it's too soon to talk about that now. My first impression was he was a good kid. Probably got nice grades, rarely got into fights. Maybe even a cool guy if he opened up to someone. His little brother Louis seemed like he put family first, by the way he sat with his brother on the sidewalk. Of course, I was just guessing at the time, and really didn't put much thought into my analysis, because I was getting ready for school when I looked out my window and I was running late, which was unusual for me at the time in my life, because I was hardly ever late for anything, especially school. I wasn't surprised when I saw Randy and his stooges go up to Jeff and Louis on that stupid skateboard of his. Randy was nothing but a bully. He always picked on anyone who was smaller than him. He was the reason why my parents drove me to school instead of letting me take the bus like everyone else. Everyone had their lunch money or some kind of cash given to Randy and his goons because of some toll that he demanded from everyone. We all knew Randy's group had knives and threatened to use them on us. We even told anyone that the money that they took from the other kids on the block. Everyone except the new kids. They were trying to intimidate like the rest of us. When I saw Randy talking to them through the window, I just looked away. It was a wussy thing to do. I had better things to do than watch another kid hand over money to Randy. But curiosity got the better of me. I looked up a few more seconds when I saw left me was speechless. Jeff was standing there now, and it looked like Randy had already had what he wanted. Just sit down, I thought. Don't be stupid. Then I saw Jeff punch Randy in the face and broke his wrist. Oh my God! I whispered, then yelled, You idiot! My parents ran downstairs and asked what happened. They looked outside and saw what was going on. Jeff had already cut the skinny kid. I think his name was Keith, and he went down screaming. Troy only went down with a single punch. Since my house was across the street from where Jeff and his brother were sitting, with the front of the house having big windows, we saw the whole thing, or at least I did. My parents came in after the part where Randy stole their wallet, so they didn't know the whole truth. It was disturbing watching Jeff fight. He looked like he was enjoying himself too much. I felt a knot in my stomach, like something was happening that shouldn't be. And from the look on Louis' face, Jeff didn't do these things often. Next thing I know, I hear sirens, and the new kids bolt out of there. The cops came around with the bus driver to check on the victims. It seemed they were going to be alright, considering the amount of crap kicked out of them. Since my parents' policy was no police, ever since my dad got framed by a narc cop when he wanted to draw attention off of himself when the police were investigating the case of the missing coke, it ended with my dad quitting the force. So when we heard sirens, we went into the backyard, got in the car, and left. My parents drove me to school. They told me clearly they didn't want me talking to Jeff, ever. I did not disagree with them. I had art first period, so I didn't see Jeff until close to the end of school. I can see the colors in my artwork, if I think hard enough. But when I try to look at anything now, it all seems gray. I guess that's the price someone pays for losing their innocence. I didn't see Jeff until the final period of the day. When I did, he seemed off. At first, I thought he was just faking the joy, so people wouldn't suspect him for the crime that he did. But he really was enjoying himself. It wasn't because he was excited to be at school. I could tell that much from him. The smile he wore looked sadist to me. It was the smile of a madman. The second the bell rang, I bolted out the doors as fast as I could. Nobody but me knew what Jeff was. A freak. Nobody didn't at first. Then I saw the police cars in front of Jeff's house. Looks like they got you, I thought. Nobody could have gotten away with something like that, you know, with the neighbor watch and everything. But I was wrong with who they arrested. Instead of coming out with Jeff, like I expected they would, the police came out with Louis, his brother. I barely formed the thought of Jeff framing his brother for the assault. When he came out of the house yelling, Louis, Louis, tell him I did it! I was able to hear him this time because the front door of my house was open. I couldn't hear what Louis said in reply to Jeff's outburst, but it definitely was not what Jeff wanted to hear. A few seconds later, the police drove off with Louis, and Jeff was left outside with his mother. A few minutes later, she went inside the house and left Jeff outside. Although I couldn't hear him from across the street, I could tell he was crying. But who wouldn't be in this situation? And rumors were spreading like wildfire about Louis. It took so long for the rumors to get started because everyone was afraid to talk about Randy getting his ass handed to him. When it was revealed that he wouldn't be coming to school for a few days, everyone decided to take advantage of the fact and enjoy it as much as possible. And lots of rumors, random bullshit started popping up. I heard Louis cut off Keith's arm. Oh yeah, well I heard Louis hit Troy so hard in his stomach he roughed up blood. That's nothing. I heard he punched Randy so hard his nose came out the back of his head, and etc., etc., etc. Personally, I didn't want anything to do with Jeff or his brother, but he just looked so alone and upset. I had to do something, so I wrote him a note telling them that he had a friend in this place, and I was going to testify at Louis' trial about what happened. I left the note on his desk with the letter J before class started, then left the room. When I came back, Jeff was at his desk, and the note was gone. Saturday rolled around. I was home alone while my parents were at work. The kid next door was having a birthday party. At the time, I left my window open because I wanted a nice breeze in my room while I did my homework. But the kids were getting so loud, I decided to close my window. I was about to close it when I saw Jeff playing with the kids. He was running around wearing one of those fake cowboy hats and carrying a toy gun. He looked so ridiculous, I had to laugh. Maybe he isn't the monster I think he is, I thought, ashamed of myself, suspecting he could be one. As I was closing the window, I saw Randy, Keith, and Troy jump over the fence on their skateboard to where Jeff was. Not again, I said to the open window. I saw Randy and Jeff exchange small talk, but I couldn't hear what they said over the kids yelling and screaming. Then Randy rushed at Jeff and tackled him. I was about to call 911 when I heard Troy and Keith shout, "No one interrupt or guts will fly." I looked out the window and saw they both had matching guns in their hands. I couldn't have called for help without endangering the lives of others. I couldn't have called 911 anyway. The batteries in my phone were already dead. Jeff was on his side, getting kicked by Randy in the face. When he grabbed his foot and twisted it. Randy fell over, and Jeff tried to walk back to the house when Troy grabbed him by the collar and threw him toward the house. I heard glass break and knew they were going to kill him. "Randy, you asshat!" I screamed at him, but he couldn't hear me over the sound of kids screaming. I couldn't wait anymore, so I ran to my parents' bedroom and searched for my dad's cell phone, hoping he forgot it at home. My heart was pounding in my chest, knowing the longer it took me to get help, the higher chance of someone getting killed was. I finally found the phone underneath the bed. I wasted no punching in the numbers. 911, hello? "I need help. There's an emergency going on next door. Some guys jumped the fence and are beating up someone. They've got guns. You need to hurry, please." "Okay, miss. I need you to tell me the address, and I'll send help straight away." I quickly told her my address and the address of the house next door. "Please hurry," I said. "It's okay. Just stay on the line." Bang, bang, bang. I heard loud gunshots come from next door. I yelped and dropped the phone. It landed on the ground and broke. Then I ran to my bedroom window to try and figure out what was going on. But no sooner had I poked my head out the window, I heard a swoosh of fire and screaming. I'm going to make Jeff scream like that when I find him. The only thing I can compare it to is the death cry of an animal. It was at the time, for me, horrifying. But now, it sounds like music to my ears. Music to me. And there is nothing I want to hear more in the world then him screaming. I saw a fire spew out of the house like an angry dragon. I ran downstairs and immediately and got a portable fire extinguisher from the kitchen and ran outside. As I was running, I popped the pin of the fire extinguisher for immediate use. Luckily, the door wasn't locked and I barged in. But when I saw Jeff, I completely froze. He was laying at the bottom of the stairs, almost completely on fire, with adults trying to put him out. I saw a bit of his skin through the commotion. Some parts were pink, some were charred, but it was all covered in red. At the sight of all this, I screamed and passed out. Last thing I remember is some of the adults running to me. Whether it was help me or not, or get the fire extinguisher, I don't know. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed wearing one of the gowns that patients wear. A nurse came in a few moments later. She had dark brown hair and a bun under her hat. She looked like she didn't want to be there. I asked her what happened. All I know is you were brought here with a few other kids because you fell and hit your head on a fire extinguisher, she said, annoyed. A fire extinguisher? I reached up my hand and touched my head. I felt bandages and a large bump the size of an orange. Then I remembered Jeff. One of the guys that came here with me, the one with burns, is he going to be all right? She sighed. Listen, there was 2 boys that came in that were brought in with burns. And no, I'm not letting you go see him just because he's your boyfriend. I felt heat rise to my face. He's not my boyfriend. I'm just worried about him. Wouldn't you be worried about someone who you just saw burn alive in front of you? I tried to keep my voice steady, but my voice quivered enough to make it sound like I was lying. Whatever. Your parents are here anyway, by the way. Want to see them? She asked. Yeah, of course. Anything to get me away from that nurse. My parents came in. The nurse finally left. They asked what happened. I told them everything. The fight, the note, all of it. I knew Randy was no good, my mom said. So have you heard anything about Jeff's condition, I asked. No, not a thing, said my dad. We just got here as soon as we heard what happened to you. But who told you? I asked. I didn't think anyone at the party knew my family. The hospital called us, Mom said. I guess it makes sense. It made absolutely no sense to me, of course. How would they be able to identify me without having any form of vindication? I looked in the doorway and saw a man and a woman standing there. My parents followed my gaze there. Excuse me, but is this James Arkansas's room? The woman asked. Yes, who are you? I'm Margaret, and this is Peter, my husband. We're Jeff's parents. I sat up in my bed. I'm Isabel. This is my husband, Greg, and our daughter, Jane. My mother gestured to me. So you're the girl who ran in with the fire extinguisher, Margaret said. Yes, I replied. Is your son all right? He just came out of surgery a few hours ago. The doctor said he'll be fine. I relaxed. That's good. I said, listen, I know what happened to Jeff and Lulu on their first day of school. Then I told Jeff's parents what really happened to Randy and his crew. We had no idea that Jeff was capable of something like this. I'm willing to testify that Louis didn't beat up anyone, that Jeff only beat up Randy's gang and him in self-defense. No need, said Margaret. Louis be released from jail after what happened to those boys. That's good, I said. We just came by to thank you for helping our son. It warms my heart to see selfless people like you and your generation. I didn't anything anyone would have done in my situation. I looked down. I'm not a hero. Nonsense, Margaret said. The least we can do is invite you for dinner over at our place when Jeff gets out of the hospital. I looked at Mom and Dad. It would be an honor, my mom said. It's settled then. We'll call you as soon as Jeff gets out of the hospital. We said our goodbyes and then left. After about 2 days passed, and I was allowed to be released from the hospital. During that time, I had no contact with Jeff or his family, but I heard that Louis was released from jail and Jeff's wounds were healing. When I got back to school, I became the center of attention more or less, because I was the only one who saw what happened at the party. But the only people I told about what happened were my friends Dana, Marcy, and Erica. I didn't know what to tell them, so I told them what I saw. Sounds like Jeff got his ass handed to him, said Dana. She had raven black hair and sapphire blue eyes. She was usually the most level-headed of all of us. Well, at least he went down fighting. I heard he took those idiots to the hospital with him, Erica snickered. She always dressed like she was from the 80s or something. Long, thigh-high, rainbow-colored socks, with hair to match, and always wearing some kind of backpack with her. He also took Jane to the hospital. Maybe she was trying to beat him up too. Marcy laughed. She seemed to be the girly girl of our little group. She was blonde hair with brown eyes, and nearly every time we saw her, she had some sort of pink on her, whether it was the color of her shirt or the jewelry around her neck. She was one of the biggest drama queens I knew, always stretching out the truth or blowing something out of proportion. I told you I went there to try to help Jeff because something was wrong, I muttered. I was the plain Jane. Brown hair, green eyes, completely unmarked, looks-wise. Or maybe you wanted to see your loved one last time before he went to go get help for himself, Marcy said in her dramatic voice. I looked at her with my eyes the size of dinner plates. What? You can't deny it, Jane Arkansas. You have a crush on Jeff. Every blood cell in my body said to my face at once she said that. What? No, I just wanted to help him, that's all. Liar, I saw you leave that note on his desk. What was it, a confession letter, a confession of your love for him? No, it was nothing like that at all. I just, you admit you left a note then. What do you mean? I was guessing. She gave me a cynical little smile and just waited for my response. The other girls started laughing at me. Jane, it was only a joke. I was kidding, Marcy said. Your face is redder than a tomato, Erica corrected. I hate all of you, I grumbled. Oh, stop being so serious. Dana put a hand on my shoulder. Come on, let's go to class. Yes, everything seemed to be normal. I think Louie even made some friends. Everything was normal, and nothing happened. Then Louie came up to me one day, told me about Jeff. Excuse me, your name is Jane, right? I turned around and looked at Louie. Yes, you're Louie, right? Jeff's your brother? Yeah, he said, looking a little uncomfortable. And again, so was I. Look, my parents wanted to tell you that Jeff's getting his bandages removed in a few days. So expect a phone call from inviting you to dinner soon. Okay, well, thank you, I said. So I had to turn away when I said, Hey, listen, what you did for your brother, that was very respectable. Thanks. I heard you try to help my brother with a fire extinguisher. That was cool. Yeah, well, thanks. See you around, I guess. Yeah, see ya. I was watching him walk away when I heard a little voice beside me saying, Cheating on your boyfriend, are you? The fuck? I turned around, surprised. It was Mercy. And with his own brother nonetheless. She faked us. Shut up, I yelled, then turned my head to make sure Louie didn't hear me. He didn't. Let's just get to class, I grumbled. 2 days passed until my phone rang. My mom answered it. A few minutes later, she got off the phone and told me this. Jeff is getting out of the hospital today. I looked up and said, That's great. It looks like we'll be having that free dinner in a few days. She chuckled. A few hours passed and I heard a car pulling into the driveway across the street. I looked out the window and saw Jeff's car in the front. Jeff's home, I thought, deciding to watch out of curiosity to see what he looked like. Dear God, how wrong I was. His dad got out, then his mother, then Louie. But what I expected Jeff to look like couldn't be farther from what I saw. He had long black hair down to his shoulders, white, leathery skin, and that smile. That smile was the same smile I saw when he was in class after he beat up Randy, Keith, and Troy. But Jeff looked right at me, into my eyes. I could feel those soulless, sadist eyes burn right into my soul. I still shake from the memory every now as I type this. He seems to be looking at me for hours with that smile until he looks away. I saw him walk into his house with his parents. I didn't breathe until that door finally closed behind them. My parents came into the living room and asked me what was wrong. My only reply was a long, loud scream. Then I fainted. When I woke up, it was dark outside. My parents weren't in my room, in their bedroom. The house was deeply quiet. I got up and went downstairs. I was wearing a nightgown that I wasn't wearing before I fainted. I went downstairs to the kitchen. The lights were on, which was unusual. My parents always told me to turn off the lights in the room when I left them. There was a note on the table. I picked it up. Scrawled on paper was this. Aren't you coming to dinner? Your friends are here too. I began to shake violently. I dropped the paper. I went to the living room window and looked out. The lights were on at Jeff's house. I knew I had to go there, but I was terrified out of my mind. I shook my head and looked back again. I saw Jeff leaning out the window in his house, staring at me with a knife in his hand, tapping it against the window. Tap, tap, tap. He was still smiling. I started stepping back from the window, never taking my eyes off him. Then I turned and ran from the window into the kitchen. I peeked out the kitchen to look at the window. All I saw was smears of red on the window. I turned around and looked at the kitchen. Everyone seemed to be in its place, even the knives. I grabbed one of them and held on tightly. Then I found a phone and tried to dial 911, but the phone line was disconnected. I had no idea where Dad's cell phone was, or even if it was fixed. I didn't want to go upstairs to find out. I didn't want to get stabbed in the back while I was looking for it. If I went to ask the neighbors for help, Jeff could kill or hurt whoever he had captured. So there was only one choice: to fight Jeff. I did anything anyone would have done in my situation. I looked down. I'm no hero. Nonsense, Margaret said. The least we can do is invite you over to our place for dinner when Jeff gets out of the hospital. I looked at my mom and dad. It would be an honor, my mom said. It's settled then. We'll call you as soon as Jeff gets out of the hospital. We said our goodbyes, and then they left. About 2 days passed, and I was allowed to be released from the hospital. During the time, I had no contact with Jeff or his family, but I heard that Louie was released from jail, and Jeff's wounds were healing. When I got back to school, I became the center of attention, more or less, because I was the only one who saw what happened at the party. But the only people I told what happened were Dana, Marcy, and Erica. I didn't know what to tell them, so I just told them what I saw. Sounds like Jeff got his ass handed to him, said Dana. She had raven black hair and with sapphire blue eyes. She was usually the most level-headed of us. Well, at least he went down fighting. I heard he took some of those idiots to the hospital with him, Erica snickered. She always dressed it like she was from the 80s or something. Long rainbow-colored socks with hair to match, and always wearing some kind of backpack with her. He also took Jane to the hospital. Maybe she was trying to beat him up too, Marcy laughed. She seemed to be the girly girl of our little group. She was blonde with brown eyes, and nearly every time we saw her, she had some sort of pink on her, whether it was the color of the shirt or her jewelry around her neck. She was one of the biggest drama queens I knew, always stretching out the truth or blowing something out of proportion. I told you I went over there trying and help Jeff. Because something was wrong, I muttered. I was the plain Jane. Brown hair, green eyes, completely unremarkable look-wise. Or maybe you wanted to see your love last time before he left to go get help for himself, Margaret said in a dramatic voice. I looked at her with my eyes the size of dinner plates. What? You can't deny it, Jane Arkansas. You have a crush on Jeff. Every blood cell in my body decided to migrate to my face at once when she said that. What? No, I just wanted to help him, that's all. Liar. I saw you leave that note on his desk. What was it? A confession to your love to him? No, it was nothing like that. So you admit you left a note for him then. What do you mean? I was guessing. She gave me a cryptic little smile and then waited for a response. The other girls just started laughing at me. Jane, it was a joke. I was only kidding. Marcy smiled. Your face is redder than a tomato, Erica chuckled. I hate all of you, I grumbled. Oh, stop being so serious. Dana put a hand on my shoulder. Come on, let's get to class. The week went by. Everything seemed to be normal. I think Louie even made a few friends. Everything was normal and nothing happened. Then Louie came up to me one day and told me about Jeff. Excuse me, your name's Jane, right? I turned around and looked. It was Louie, right? Yeah, you're Louie, right? Jeff's brother? Yeah, he said, looking a little uncomfortable. Then again, so was I. Look, my parents wanted me to tell you that Jeff is getting his bandage removed in a few days, so expect a phone call inviting you to dinner soon. Okay, well, thank you, I said. He was about to turn away when I said, Hey, listen, what you did for Jeff, that was really respectable. Thanks. I heard you tried to help my brother with the fire extinguisher. That was cool. Yeah, well, see you around, I guess. Yeah, see ya. I was walking, I was watching him walk away when I heard a little voice beside me. Cheating on your boyfriend, are you? The fuck? I turned around surprised. It was Marcy. And with his little brother nonetheless, she fake gasped. Shut up, I yelled. Then I turned my head to make sure Louis didn't hear me. He didn't. Let's get to class, I grumbled. 2 days passed until the phone rang. My mom answered. A few minutes later, she got off the phone and told me this. Jeff is getting out of the hospital today, Jane. I looked up and said, That's great. It looks like we'll be having a free dinner in a few days. She chuckled. A few hours passed, and I heard a car pull in the driveway across the street. I looked out and saw Jeff's car in the front house. Jeff's home, I thought, deciding to watch out of curiosity to see what he would look like. Dear God, I was wrong. I was. His dad got out, then his mom, then Lily. But what I expected Jeff to look like couldn't be farther from what I saw. He had a long black hair down his shoulders, white leathery skin, and that smile. The smile was the same smile I saw when he was in class after he beat up Randy, Keith, and Troy. But Jeff looked right at me, into my eyes. I could feel his soulless, sadist eyes burning right into my soul. I still shake from the memories every now and then as I type this. He seemed to be looking at me for hours with that smile until he looked away. I saw him walk into his house with his parents. I didn't breathe until the door finally closed behind them. My parents came into the living room, asked me what was wrong. My only reply was a loud, long scream. Then I fainted. When I woke up, it was dark outside. My parents weren't in their bedroom. The house was deathly quiet. I got up and went to the downstairs. I was wearing a long nightgown that I wasn't wearing before I fainted. I went downstairs to the kitchen. The lights were on, which is unusual. My parents always told me to turn the lights off in a room when I left it. There was a note on the table. I picked it up. Scrawled on the paper was, Aren't you coming for dinner? Your friends are here too. I began to shake violently. I dropped the paper. I went to the living room and looked out the window. The lights were on in Jeff's house. I knew that I had to go there, but I was terrified out of my mind. I shook my head and looked back again. I saw Jeff leaning on the window in his house, staring at me with a knife in his hand and tapping against the window. He was still smiling. Tap, tap, tap. I started stepping back from the window, never taking my eyes off him. Then I turned and ran away from the window into the kitchen. When I peeked out the kitchen window to look, all I saw was smears of red on the window. I turned around and looked at the kitchen. Everything seemed to be in place, even the knives. I grabbed one of them and held it tight. Then I found his phone and tried to dial 911, but the phone line was disconnected. I have no idea where Dad's cell phone was, or even if it was fixed. I didn't want to go downstairs to find it. I didn't want to get stabbed in the back while I looked for it. And if I went to ask one of the neighbors for help, Jeff could kill or hurt whoever he had captive. So there was only one choice: to go fight Jeff alone. I clutched the knife tighter and went to the front door, put on my shoes, and went outside. My hands lingered on the doorknob as I stepped outside, but I knew that I knew what I had to do. I let go of the doorknob and marched across the street to Jeff's house. As I got closer to the front door of his house, I slowed down. My knees began to shake, my palms began to sweat, and I started to breathe faster and shallower. Before I knew it, I was standing completely still on the front doorstep, panting like a dog. I manned up, grabbed the doorknob, squeezed my eyes shut, and jerked it open. I stood there in the doorway with a knife in my right hand, doorknob in my left, too terrified to open my eyes until I hear a voice. Looks like you made it. I'm glad you did. Friend. I opened my eyes, then screamed. His eyes were large and blinking, and his smile was red. He had carved it into his face. His clothes were covered in blood, and then I passed out. When I woke up, I was at a dining room table. My knife was gone, and when I looked up, I saw people sitting at the table. It was my parents, Jeff's parents, his brother Louis, and my friends. They were all dead with smiles carved into their faces with red cavities in their chests. The smell was unbearable. It was indecent, unlike anything I had ever smelled before. It was a smell of death. I tried to scream, but I had a gag in my mouth, and I was tied to the chair. I looked around the room in disbelief. Tears welled up in my eyes from the sight and the smell of their body. Look who's awake. I turned sight and turned to look who was beside me. Jeff was there. I tried to scream away, but the gag was in the way. Suddenly, he was beside with a knife clutched over. Shh, 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 shh. It's not polite to scream at friends. He began sliding the blade across my face, consistently tracing visible line from the corner of my mouth up my cheek, in a large grinning smile. I shivered as he did this. When I turned away from him, he grabbed the back of my head and forced me to look at the scene at the table. Now, don't be rude. You're insulting everybody by not looking at their pretty faces. I looked at the back of the table, looking at everyone with their face carved into smiles, some with their chests still bleeding fresh blood. Hot tears began running down my face as I began to say, "Oh, what's wrong?" Jeff purred. "Are you upset that you don't look beautiful like them?" I looked at him, trying to understand what he said, but I looked away when I saw his face again and looked back to the table. "Don't worry. I'll make you beautiful too." "What do you say?" He then slid the knife under the gag and cut it off. I spat out the gag and looked at him, trying to hold his gaze. He tilted his head to the side as he looked at me. Then I shut my eyes and looked away from him. Then I muttered darkly, "Go fuck yourself." Then I turned to him again. "You Joker reject." He just laughed in my face. I preferred it when he just smiled. "You're even funnier than I thought." He came closer. I looked away again, feeling his breath against my skin. Friends do friends favors. Well, I'm gonna do a favor for you. I felt him let go of the back of my head. When I looked back, he was out of the room. I looked back at the table once more, taking it off. Fresh tears started to come down my face again, as I remembered my family and friends who were all alive only a few hours ago. I was just still crying when Jeff came back. "Don't cry," he said. "It'll all be over soon." I looked down at him and saw him holding a jug of bleach and a gas can. My eyes widened, and I looked at him. "I don't have any alcohol, so this will have to do." Then he dosed me in bleach and gasoline. We had better hurry, Jane. I already called the firemen." Then he lit up a single match, lit it, then threw it at me. The flames erupted as soon as the match came into contact with me. I screamed as loud as possible. The pain was unbearable. I could feel the flesh melting off my body, the heat invading every pore of my body, blood evaporating in the veins, my body becoming charred and brittle. Before I blacked out, I could hear Jeff laughing. "See you later, my friend. I hope you become as beautiful as I am." Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was sitting in a hospital bed, bandaged head from toe. Everything was spinning, and it hurt to blink and breathe. I looked around and saw an empty room. I groaned loudly because my mouth was bandaged. Everything hurt. A nurse came in a few minutes to hear me. "Jane, can you hear me?" I looked toward her. The room started spinning. "Jane, I'm your nurse, Jackie. I don't know how to say this, but your family died in the fire. I'm sorry." Tears started falling down my face again. I sobbed. "No, honey, don't cry. You won't be able to breathe if you do." I couldn't stop. "Jane, I'm going to give you something to help you calm down, alright?" I felt something run into my bloodstream. Then I fell asleep again. When I woke up, I could move more, and my body wasn't as bandaged as it was when I first woke up. I looked around and saw my room had flowers in it. Some were fresh, some were dying. I tried to get up, but the nurse came back in and put me back down. "Easy, Jane. You've been asleep for a while. Try and take it easy." I tried to speak. My voice came out raspy and sandpaper. "How long was I asleep?" "Almost 2 weeks. You were in a medical-induced coma, in order for your body to heal. I'm the same nurse you saw the first time you woke up." "Give me a mirror," I said. Jane, I don't think that's with. Give me a mirror! I felt the handle of the mirror slip in my hand. When I looked into the mirror, I dropped on the floor. The shattering of the mirror didn't compare to the shattering of my realization. My skin leathery and brown. I didn't have a single hair on my head, and my skin around my eyes were sagging. I looked almost as bad as Jeff. Everything came flooding back to me. I began to cry harder. The nurse was hugging me, but it didn't help much. At the height of my sobbing, I was surprised that nobody else came in to check up on me. By the time I was done, I could barely see me. Excuse me, I have a delivery from Miss Arkansas. I'll take those. Jackie stood up and went to the doorway. I didn't want the delivery guy to see me, so I stared at the wall in front of me. Someone certainly cares about you, Jane. It looks like the same person who sent all these flowers got you a package as well. I looked around at her. She was holding a pink package tied with a brown string. I reached out and took it from her. The second I took the package, I could tell something wrong. Excuse me, but could I get something to eat? I asked as sweetly as possible. Of course, I'll get you some food right away. Jackie smiled back, then left the room. My hand shook as I grabbed the string and pulled it. The paper lightly bounced up, and I saw something that turned my blood to ice. It was a white mask with black around the eyes and a black feminine smile. It also had black lace cover the eye holes of the mask. So even though someone couldn't see my eyes, I could see them. It was a long black dress with a turtleneck, black gloves, and a black wig with beautiful curls. Along with these things were a bouquet of black roses and a sharp kitchen knife. Attached to this mask was a note. Jane, I'm sorry I messed up making you beautiful. So I gave you a mask that will let you seem beautiful until you get better. And also, you forgot your knife. I thought you would want it back. Jeff. By the time the nurse got back, the present was hidden under my bed. I told her that there were some flowers. She seemed to be disgusted by them, so she threw them. I thanked her for that. That night, when everyone was either asleep or home, I snuck out. The only thing I had to wear was that dress. So I put it on, and I found a pair of shoes outside the hallway, forgotten by some careless nurse. I wore the wig to look less inconspicuous. I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't care. When I finally stopped walking, I was in a cemetery. I went inside and found two tombstones, Isabel, Arkansas, and Gregory, Arkansas. I sat down in front of the tombstones and cried once more. When I finally sat up, the sun was beginning to rise, and so was a new chapter of my life. I took the mask and put it on, then picked up the knife and held it tightly as I did before. Then I turned around and looked at the rising sun. On that day, I swore my revenge against Jeff, the killer, and donned my new name, Jeff Everlasting, for I only wanted things to be more everlasting for Jeff, and then his madness to be his death. Ever since that day, I have been trying to find Jeff and kill him, hunting him like an animal. I will find you, Jeff, and I will kill you. As for the photos that have been popping up around with me saying, don't go to sleep, you won't wake up, this pretty much explains what I want to do with Jeff's victim. Prevent them from being their victims in the first place. Whoever said that I kill them so they don't get killed by Jeff is a gross overstatement. So this is my story. Whether you accept it as a fact is up to you. Whether you accept it as a fact is not up for me to decide. Now, if you excuse me, the sun is going down. The hunt is beginning once more.